Welcome to the Day One Podcast. I'm Brett Nord.
I'm Adam Daly.
And we're back for another episode.
Episode 2!
That's right.
We're so excited. And today we have a special guest with us. This is part of our interview series. We've brought along founder and CEO Paul Mayne.
Hello, guys.
The main man.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us today. We had to twist his arm a little bit to get on the show, but it worked out. The schedules worked, and now we get to talk to him about Day One.
Right on. Excited.
I just wanted to give a shout out to all the people that gave us feedback on Twitter and through some emails that they've really enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
And they're excited that we're doing this podcast, and so we are too. And I want to thank everybody for their feedback that they've given us through Twitter, through email. It's been great. And we've written down a lot of these ideas so that we can continue going forward. Ideas about what you want to hear on the show. Some feature requests came in. And if you want to do that, go ahead and email us at podcast@dayoneapp.com. We'd love to get your feedback. So,
And it was the best, most downloaded podcast episode we've had.
That's
so far.
Absolutely true. Yep. Highest downloaded, best rated.
That's right.
So now that we're live,
now
that we're live, you can subscribe on iTunes. We are on Stitcher as well. If you just want the RSS feed in whatever podcast app you're using, you will use the URL day1.libsyn.com/RSS, and we'll put that up in our podcast notes as well, so that you can get it on whatever platform you want.
Right.
So
I listen to a lot of podcasts, and it's already my favorite one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Episode 1 is amazing.
Episode
we hit
2
it out of
is
the
getting
ballpark,
better.
Bro. Yeah.
Episode 2 is already
way better.
way better.
Yeah, so we're excited to do this. What our idea is do a show where every month we do an episode about kind of roadmap stuff, best practices and tips and stuff like that. And then we also want to do an episode a month, so kind of a bi-monthly thing where we interview someone, whether that's within the company or user interviews as well. We want to do that, and we'll be getting that going. So, just some housekeeping notes to bring up in the beginning. I wanted to announce, if you haven't seen it already, but Day One Mac has been updated to 2.6, and with that comes Touch ID on the new MacBook Pros 2016. Cool way to unlock your journal now.
Yes.
Do you use the touch bar a lot?
I do, yes.
It's really fun,
Yes.
and there's a lot of customization that you can do up there. The Touch ID is just great. Yeah. I can't wait until that comes to like iMacs and stuff, like on some sort of keyboard. That'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know, like if that's even possible. Like what's the hardware specs you have to do with that, but that would be cool.
I think Face ID's coming.
Yes, Face ID. I would love to just talk about like Apple rumors, but that's not what this show is about.
Other shows handle that.
Also in 2.6 for iOS, our new journal drawer is live. We talked a little bit about that last time, that it was coming. It's now here. We had some comments about people saying that they thought the search function was gone. Don't worry, it's not gone. It's just now in the new journal drawer, which I think is fantastic. It's a great way to just swipe over and get access to your journals. Especially if you're using a larger device, it's a lot easier to, you don't have to reach all the way up to the top left to get to the journal picker and stuff like that.
Right.
So.
And last episode, you were showing me, and our listeners couldn't see it.
Yep.
Now they can actually follow along with us.
Yep. Go
in
update.
their own app.
Go update to 2.6.2. Actually, we're on live with that. And then just one thing I wanted to mention, something that came up in 2.6. We had this weird calendar bug, where if you tap on a calendar on a date in the calendar view, it'll bring up the contextual menu for the previous day. We are aware of that bug, and it is in process of being fixed. We're working on a release here pretty soon, so it's coming. We promise. Kind of a little annoying bug, but Paul and I were talking earlier this week about the calendar view and how it's a nice representation of kind of how well you're completing your journal each day. You get to see those dates colored in with the journal color that you have. Paul pointed out that I was failing a little bit at getting all my dates. But I do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I do a pretty good job. We mentioned on this day last time as well.
Sure.
And I just love seeing those dates come up, from entries that I've made in past years. Give me a little show of where I've been.
Sure.
It's a great way to do that.
That's right.
Cool. Anything else? Any other housekeeping?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the idea, is to just keep it topical, things that are
nice and relevant
now. Right.
Yeah, I agree. So let's get to the meat of this podcast, of this episode. We've done the potatoes and the vegetables.
That's
We
it.
saved the meat for last. We're going to interview Paul and talk about the history of Day One just a little bit. Now, I gave a brief history last time, but we wanted
Sure.
to get Paul's view and just his insight on kind of where we've come from and where we are now and where do we see ourselves going. So first of all, let me ask you, Paul, just origins of Day One for you. What brought about this idea and how did you get started with this app?
Yeah, this was something that came together through a lot of influences. And like before creating Day One, I never kept a journal. I tried a few times to keep a written journal and other digital forms as well. Never really consistent. I think if I had to break it down to like one major influence, it was my children as they were growing up and learning to talk and saying things and doing interesting things. There were moments that I couldn't capture with a photo or with a video that I had to like really write it down, something they said. And my instinct was at the time to just turn to social media. Like, was it like posted on Facebook or Twitter? I was early user of Twitter and not having any followers. I would use it as a journal, like a quick status update.
Yeah.
So I would, what did I eat for lunch? What did my kids say? What am I doing? What am I watching on TV? And as Twitter started to mature and I had more followers, I wasn't as comfortable sharing everything on there.
Yeah.
And so it was really an alternative to that, having a private Twitter.
Right. That's a really interesting space, especially now as social media has grown so much since those early days. I mean, do you guys still have 40404 in your contacts list?
Oh,
You guys remember sending
yeah.
tweets from text messages?
Yeah.
Oh,
Dude, that's old school.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, man. I had it in my contacts list forever ago.
Sure.
But now social media has just blown up.
Right.
And we seem to share everything now. Instagram is this place where you share your food, and Facebook is where you connect with old friends, and Twitter's, at least they have now more characters that you can put in. I don't know if that's for better or for worse, but
Yeah. Well, it started out as just like I wanted to have like quick status updates throughout the day. Whether it was like something superficial like what I ate, or it could be like a phone call or a meeting I had, and just jotting down a few words summarizing what was happening.
yeah.
And then at the end of the day, it would come. You'd have this log of all the things that kind of complete your full day, and then from there, it was like now I had a platform to expand upon those things and go longer form on some of the topics that were discussed or ideas that I'd had or whatever's going through my head.
And so that brings in the idea of a digital journal app that you wanted to build that suited. Did you look for any beforehand?
Yeah, I saw what was out there. I tried a few, and so there was nothing that was syncing between desktop and mobile.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like there was an opportunity there. And then Apple had announced the Mac App Store, and I was working from home regularly. I was doing freelance for a year and UI design, and I had built a really simple iPad game and learned a bit about the dynamics of, releasing a paid app and the App Store. And I felt like, this is another opportunity with the release of the Mac App Store to get an opportunity to be noticed, as a new app.
Yeah.
The iOS App Store was already out for 3 years and had a ton of apps available, so it was kind of harder to stand out there. And so that was it. I was like, I set a goal. I'm going to take the entire month of December off and just focus on this idea that I'd been thinking about for years, but never could really turn it into something. So I had to dedicate the time to do it.
Yeah.
And the goal was to hit the launch of the Mac App Store, and we missed that by a couple months, but we still got recognized.
Yeah. Well, and from what I've learned being here, software is interesting in, you have these goals to get these release dates, but sometimes like the last 10% or so is sometimes you're a little more meticulous about, and you want to make sure it's right and you get out there. So you launch on the App Store, and from there it's just a great success story as far as people started downloading the app, using it, and then you grew from there.
Yeah, I mean, I had pretty low expectations. I just wanted to put something out there, and if it meant I had to give it away for free, I was going to do that. But I started out charging $10 for the Mac app, and in the release notes, I mentioned like the roadmap, which a lot of people that downloaded the app initially just kind of caught the vision of it and saw where I was going with this and the idea behind it, and it kind of just took off from right there.
Awesome. Well, and that's what we have now. So
yeah, not only is it functional, but it's so pretty. And why don't you talk a little bit about the design, like how important that was to you in designing the app?
Yeah, I think it's one of the main elements to it is part of it just being an elegant experience and being fun to use. Like it's. I think a lot of people realize the benefits of journaling and the importance, but it's hard to do if it's not going to be fun and engaging. Yeah. And so I think by having a modern design and utilizing the latest technology, it makes it really seamless to integrate into your life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to always sound like an apologist or anything like that, but just as like a consumer,
right?
The whole idea of mind space, introspection, and doing that privately, I think is a huge need these days, and we definitely want to explore that. I think in later episodes, just the benefits of journaling. What can you get out of that? And that's personally what I do, and a lot of just chronicling my life, especially with photos. I'm a big photo journaler. What do we want to move into now? Should we do? Let's talk about the subscription model.
Yeah.
So up until June of 2017, we were a paid app. It was a one-time fee for Mac and separately for iOS, since the stores were separate. And in 2017, we changed over to a subscription model. Let's talk about what were the motivating factors behind that, and maybe like what were some challenges that we may have faced there, and what are we doing about that?
Yeah, as a paid app, I mean, it's there were a lot of unknowns with the future, and it's hard to predict. Even though we had consistent sales over 5 years, it's hard to know like where we were going to be in a year from now, and when you're hiring people full time and establishing a business, like it's good to know where we're going and that we're going to have enough revenue to cover our costs to keep this thing alive.
Yeah. And that's something that I think we don't always see. Like there's a lot of free apps out there in the world. How do those get paid for? Maybe it's ads, maybe it's data and stuff like that. And we've certainly seen that recently. Moving to a subscription model kind of, avoids those kinds of traps, especially when we're talking about people's like inner thoughts that they're writing down here in an app,
Yeah, so it was something that we wanted to do for a while before we were able to even roll it out. But, there were a lot of unknowns with Apple's plans for if they were going to offer paid upgrades or how they were going to handle that, which they just kind of ignored for a long time. And their solution to upgrades is this subscription model, which they have a really elegant built-in way to introduce that and offer that in your app. And we were able to use that and introduce it as our business model moving forward, which that was a tough thing to transition to, because the biggest advantage, I think, aside from just being able to better project our revenue, is that we can offer a free tier.
Yeah.
So anybody can just download the app and try it out and even use it pretty heavily without having to pay,
Right.
And so that was a big barrier to begin with, when especially when it was a $40 app on the Mac, and $5 on iOS. Even at 99 cents, most people I'm not going to even try that
Sure.
out. So now we can reach a whole lot more people, and one of the scary things with that is just we didn't know the impact that was going to have on support and how we were going to be able to handle all these new users. But it worked out really well. We've been going at it. We launched the subscription in June, and we kind of dialed it in at the end of last year and got the right price point. And currently we only offer a yearly subscription, which I think is fair. People can use the app, most of the features for free, and if they want to start syncing between multiple platforms and have multiple journals and photos, then this is the kind of thing that you want to use longer term and not just monthly. So
right.
When we made that switch, we only offer yearly. It's been working really well, and our revenues are higher than they've ever been, and so we're looking really good for the future.
Keeps the lights on.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing I wanted to mention, the idea of paid upgrades on the App Store, since it's not officially supported, we had to launch a separate app in 2016 just to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
It was a separately paid app that you had to upgrade to. Now with this new model, with the free one, even in the free tier, they're getting maintenance updates, performance improvements, even as new OS versions come out, which I think is a huge benefit. And so, even if you're not subscribing to it, there are benefits you can get even in that free tier long term. You can have your journal and use it as long as it's around. For those added benefits, like you said, syncing multiple journals, multiple photos, etc., that subscription option is there for you. So.
Yeah.
And I talk to developers that aren't on subscription and are still doing the yearly or two updates, paid updates. They would find that they were having to make that decision of features that they would have to hold back. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to release it yet. We're going to wait for the next version. I love that the subscription model, we release features when they're ready.
Yep.
And we don't have to worry about that, trying to time it for a new release. It's just, users will always get the new benefits, new features.
Absolutely.
But I think Day One's in a pretty special position in what it is being a journal, that these are memories that you want to preserve for your whole life. Right. And so that's the way that I've envisioned the future of Day One, is this is a lifetime app, something that I love and I want to continue improving and evolving over time, and just having it there as a resource for people, not only to contribute new memories to, but to reflect back on for their whole lives. And then after they're gone, to share with their loved ones if they choose to do so.
Sure.
Lifetime app. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Where it's just with you all the time. It's not something fleeting. I mean, capturing your memories is a big deal. I think I'm with you. Keeping a written journal was pretty difficult for me when it wasn't so accessible. You're carrying your phone with you all the time these days. Right. Or, a tablet or something like that, and you can go home and do it on your computer if you're using Sync. That just wasn't always the case when you're carrying around a notebook and a pen or something like that. Making it portable, being able to journal and capture a photo wherever you are, and putting that right in line with your text, I think that's a cool benefit. Lifetime app, I like that a lot. So without talking about maybe any spoilers or anything like that, because we have talked about some roadmap stuff, what do you envision for the future of Day One?
Well, I think it'll be a continuation of what we've done over the past 7 years, just continually evolving and improving the entire experience by keeping it elegant and simple, but adding new features and new ways to contribute to it. The next big one is audio recording. I think one thing that stands apart with Day One is the integrity of the data has always been important. From the beginning, it was I've always thought of it if this wasn't my app, if it was what would I want from it as a user? Yeah. And having portable data is an important thing to me for the future. If the app went away, that I can export the data, that I have access to it, that I own it, that it's well formatted, that it's not just jumbled up rich text or HTML, that it's plain text and machine readable, and I can import it and move it around, do what I want with it.
Yeah.
It's future proof.
Future proof.
And so continuing with that, we've rolled out, speaking of the integrity of the data, our most recent thing is end-to-end encryption, which is another thing that I think is important element. With this type of data, you have to have a trust element, and trust that your data is safe and protected, and that you're the only one that has access to it. So I think I'm really excited about the future of tech and Apple and the way things are going, where you can a lot of things can be automated or integrated, and we like, because of our interest in tech, we're often early adopters to a lot of things, whether it's like Touch ID or other capabilities of these devices. And so I'm just excited to see what's coming at WWDC and what we can build on next.
Honestly, that's been one of my favorite parts of working here. Is I used to watch WWDC or the keynotes and stuff like that, but it was mostly like either on my own time, or I'd have to wait till I got home and go watch it later on my Apple TV. Like here, it's an event, right, because it impacts us as a company. So we watch it together, we talk about it, and it's really enjoyable. I'm a little bit of an Apple fanboy, just a little bit though.
Aren't we all?
But end-to-end encryption, I think that was a huge deal for a lot of people, and it makes sense too, because you're right, it's their private data, and they want to be the only ones that have access to it. And it works really well. I've got a couple of encrypted journals myself, and I work with our users a lot on this, and it's a really great feature that it's available. What are you most... Well, you mentioned that a little bit. You're most excited about the future of tech and stuff like that. Is there anything in particular that stands out as one of the things you're most excited about?
Yeah, I think something that we haven't really explored too heavily so far is ways to encourage and help people journal. And so some initiatives we're exploring right now are journaling templates and prompts, and I think some sort of guides, whatever those are, ways that help people become more consistent in their journaling and help them to understand things they can write about. And I think there's a lot that we can do there that will really help in that area. And so far we haven't really got into it because it's been primarily designed for people that already know how to journal or already have the habit.
Right.
But that's not everybody.
Certainly, and we can all do better, I think, at that. No, that's a great addition. I personally, just if I can plug a little tip or tutorial right here, the reminders feature is a great way to do that now. Right. And I know we're working on ways to improve that, especially because in the reminders feature now, you can add a template to it. So when the reminder appears on your device, your Mac, you tap on it and your template appears in your entry ready to go. So I've used that for logging dietary things or doing a movie review or just like how was my day kind of thing. You already got your template in there. It supported Markdown, so it was ready to go with your headers or anything like that. So if you haven't checked that out, go to our help guides at help.dayoneapp.com and look at reminders for some tips and tutorials.
And you can customize that reminder too.
Absolutely.
Right? If you want to say, yo, how come you're not writing? Something in your own, something to motivate you.
Absolutely. Something to yell at you. I'm the kind of guy that has like 10 alarms set in the morning, one that says it's time to get up, and then by the end one it's like, if you don't get up now, you will be late.
Yeah.
Not really. It's a meme. It's a meme. I know.
I think my favorite feature in terms of reminders or sort of like a guide is our activity feed.
Oh, yeah.
And which we just recently integrated into the watch, where you can see your recent visits from the past 24 hours, and on the watch you can just tap one and talk into it. And on the phone, this was a feature we introduced about a year and a half ago, I think early on in 2.0. And it's continually improving, both with the visit data, which has very little impact, if any, on your battery, and it kind of gives you an outline of where you've been the past few days, and you can go back and just jot down a note about each place you've been, and then it marks it off with a check, and that's a great way to use Day One, and something that I'm excited about exploring improvements to that.
Yeah. Well, and especially if you're kind of a completionist like myself and you like to see all of those little circles checked off, it's like, yes, I feel accomplished, or someone who uses the calendar view, they like seeing all their dates filled in to know that they're done with that.
And it's super motivating to get those in the day, a year ago.
On this day, yeah.
On this day. And if we did the reverse where you would get a big 0 or a donut, like you did nothing a year ago today, like, oh shoot. But I love that it's all positive. Like you did a great thing a year ago.
What happened?
Did an entry.
Yes.
Encourage you to keep the streak.
Great. Do we have any follow-up or anything like that?
I think that's great for the interview. Paul, anything else? Awesome.
Yeah, I'd like to be on again.
Absolutely.
There's a lot more stuff we can explore.
So much stuff. And I think that's what we're excited about and why we're doing this show, is just so that we can create another way to be a community with our users, our listeners.
Sure.
Get them involved. And the ways you can do that is email us at podcast@dayoneapp.com. You can also follow us on social media. Go to @dayoneapp on Twitter and Instagram, and then also facebook.com/day1app is where we're at.
That's right.
So please send us your feedback. What do you want to hear? And we'll get those ideas down, collected, and we'll try our best to address those. Right?
That's right.
Anything else, Brett?
No, thanks everyone for listening.
Yes, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you go and subscribe on iTunes or on Stitcher or your other platforms that you listen to podcasts on. And we'll see you next time.
Right on. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you again. We're not even going to see them again.